Hello everybody, welcome back to Wolfeei. Today we're going to be doing a Minecraft event, a PvP games tier list. As you can see from the image on screen right now, I assume this is the first pre-recorded upload. There will be some pre-recorded videos coming from probably whenever this is uploaded for the next like 3-ish weeks, because I'm going to go to TwitchCon and I have other travels and Shane's going to be here, so I can't really record a lot during those times. I'm going to be spending time with my friends, so pre-recorded videos, just like Daily December sometimes, but this one is going to be a lot more, and I'm going to be working my ass off. Anyways, let's get started. Here's the tier list that I've prepared. There's actually other games here too. I'm going to be doing a overall event game ranking too, probably coming in like a week for you now. But starting today with just the PvP games, because that's something that's interesting to look at comparatively, is just ranking every PvP game between now the 4 main events, because I know in the past whenever I've done tier lists or rankings of all the games overall, I've included MCC, Blockwars, and Pandoras Box, but never included Minecraft Mayhem. Mayhem will now be included in the rankings because I've actually played Mayhem a good amount of times now, so I have experience and I can actually talk about it. Either way, I have sectioned the PvP games into separate sections. You've got the Battle Royale-esque games. This includes like a survival games or like a Block Wars battle, etc., etc. So that type of genre where all teams are playing on the same map trying to, be the last one standing, which is a Battle Royale. Other tier is Round Robin. This is the one where teams face off against each other individually, like a battle box. So it's, multiple rounds PvP game where every team pisses each other once. And then also PvP Sky game, I think, can be separated because it's a very common type of game. Technically, it is also a Battle Royale, but the Sky games are exclusively in the sky, obviously. And it plays a little differently, so it gets its own tier also because people often refer to the Sky games as their own tier, so I'll do the same thing here. And let's start with that because it is its own tier. It's the easiest to digest in terms of comparing the games. Also, the rankings you see, or rankings rather, the order in which you see things in the tier right now is alphabetical order, so don't look at this as if it's already pre-ranked, because it's not. But here we go. Starting with the Sky games, Sky Battle is obviously the main example of Sky games in terms of Minecraft events. It is the one that is often referred to as the Sky Wars equivalent, and when every other event's Sky game is mentioned, some people mistake it for Sky Battle because Sky Battle is the most popular. I'm going to put it instinctively in B. Now, the reason for this is kind of, like, I might end up changing my rankings, but I think Sky games in general recently have not aged very well. I think people have started to realize that it's similar to Battle Royale games. If you're not the winning team, you don't really have that great of a time typically. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't have a good time in Sky Battle, because you totally can if you don't win. But I think it is a game that, just like every other Battle Royale style game, suffers from the feeding into the good player, perspective of an event where, the weaker players may not have as good of a time, and it could negatively affect the event. That's how I perceive it, which is also why Block Wars currently doesn't really have a Sky game. Speaking of Block Wars, Sky Zone's going in D. Terrible game. It's not the worst, but like, it's not great. Like, if Sky Battle's a B, Sky Zone can't be any higher than a D. If Sky Battle's an A, which it might be an A. I mean, it could be A tier. Then I mean, even then, Sky Zone's probably still a D. Then if we're looking at Sky High, I think is the PB equivalent. Sky High is like okay. Same with Sky Skirmish. They are very similar for me. I don't think either of them necessarily stand out from the other. They're pretty much the same game in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, but they've played the same for me essentially. I think, yeah, they're just okay. Like, it's very much just a Sky game. It's nothing about it stands out, and it's just kind of whatever. I don't think they're bad. I don't think they're good. They're just okay. So that's a C. Just meh. Yeah, just meh. And then if that's C tier, then I think Sky Battle's very much hovering around like low A, high B. And I'm gonna keep it at high B for now, but we'll see how everything ranks and we might push some things up. All right, next up. Let's do the round robins. Let's go from the smallest sections to the larger sections. Round robins up next. And I think round robin PvP games are probably some of the better ones in events, in general. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think in terms of MCC PvP, I think BattleBox ranks in the top 2 from the games we have here. And Extraction is the best PvP game in Block Wars, so I think that's pretty good. Guardians of the Chamber, I also would say, is probably the best Mayhem PvP game right now, although I don't think Mayhem's PvP games are their strong suit. And Minor Mania is fine. I don't think Minor Mania is the best PvP game in PB. Even so, it might be in the bottom half, but it's, yeah, fine, I guess, just whatever. Starting with BattleBox, I think BattleBox is a really good game. I think it's definitely A tier in terms of PvP games because I think it provides a lot of opportunity for people to do well regardless of skill. Yes, of course, if you're good at PvP, you're going to do better at BattleBox just simply because it is a PvP game. However, there's multiple rounds which provides different opportunities. You can try different strategies because of the wall rushing. Kits are varied too, so you can alter your strategy based on the kits. And I think it's a pretty good game. It's debatably like low S in terms of PvP games overall, but we'll see. Keep in mind, this is my opinion. This is not like factual or like objective opinion. It's my opinion, and I'm admittedly not the biggest PvP fan because I'm just not that great at PvP. And you'll notice that probably the ranged combat games will rank a little bit higher just because I do prefer that. Speaking of, Extraction's going in S. People may say, you're biased, the Block Wars biased, blah blah blah. I think Extraction is just a very good game because I think ranged combat in Minecraft works better for events. It's easier for the average player to grasp, and it'll be a little bit easier to compete. There isn't weird like mechanics in terms of like S-tapping and crit chaining and whatever. Like there's no such things. It's just shoot bow, land hit, good. Also, the damage system is very simplified. There's not a lot of RNG to it, or pretty much no RNG to it. If you get hit 4 times, you're out. If you shoot someone 4 times, they're out. Simple. The only thing that is maybe a little bit interesting about Extraction right now is that I think we've just had very interesting team balancing. So you could argue that points maybe are a little silly, but that's nitpicky, I think, in my opinion. I think pure game design-wise, Extraction, very good game. It's S tier for PvP. Guardians of the Chamber, I think, is solid. It's definitely not bad. I do think that the spike or whatever, the bomb planting thing is an interesting mechanic, very much akin to a CSGO or a Valorant, obviously. And I think it could work. I do think it's very interesting that that's like a required thing to have to do, and something that's very common is that just every team, or that the 2 teams plant their quote-unquote bomb on one site and the other plants on the other side, and you just have kind of a like interesting situation there. I do think it provides different strategies too, but I think Mayhem is also a little bit harder to judge because the roster of players, I think, affects how a game is perceived, and I think Mayhem's roster of players is relatively high skill, which is the same thing with PB, where I think that may impact how I perceive the game, but regardless, enough yapping. I think Guardians Off Instinct goes in B. I think it is below Sky Battle for me right now, but I think it has a good amount of potential. I think it's a very solid game. It does have a kit that is both ranged and like sword or melee combat rather. So I think it provides some nice variety for people to play in different styles. Very much reminds me of BattleBox. However, it's slightly more complicated because of the other mechanic. Thus, it ranks a little bit lower. And then Minor Mania. I think Minor Mania is fine. I know a lot of, well, not a lot. I've heard a good amount of people say that they don't like Minor Mania from playing it. I don't really know specifically why. Maybe because the focus of the game is more on the collecting resources and like banking them aspect of the game because that's how you score points rather than just the PvP. I think it's solid. I also may be biased because I've almost exclusively had really good teams for Minor Mania, and thus I don't really mind it. I think it's fine, but I would probably rank it low B. I think it's pretty solid. Very intense game sometimes, so pretty cool. Actually, do I think it's better than Guardians? We'll get back to that. I'll do a little fix at the end. I think Minor Mania is solid. I am, in favor, I guess, of it. Next up, you got, or last but definitely not least, is the Battle Royale games. These will, these are the games that typically have the biggest impact on the score of an event. And yeah, let's get started with Battle, I guess. I think Battle is okay. I think an issue with Battle is that it is a little complicated with the kits. I also think that, with blockers, we try to keep the weaker player perspective in mind, which for a PvP Battle Royale-esque game can be a little, interesting in terms of how it affects the game design. I think, we have to sacrifice certain elements of gameplay that could be intense or interesting for the sake of not making it so the higher skill players absolutely sweep the competition. So I think Battle, in my opinion, ranks probably in the C tier. Now, I think it would probably be in the top, but I don't know for sure. I'm just very unlucky in Sky games, thus I don't really enjoy them that much. I think Battle is a little bit more enjoyable, but I also can't really recall much from recent Battle, games that I played. Obviously, there's the Sleepy and Rainho teams that were just chaos, like chaos bombs of a team, which is funny, but in terms of gameplay, I don't think we had the greatest time. I also just think I haven't had the strongest battle teams, so probably a pretty significant factor as to how I enjoy a game, in my opinion. So yeah, top of C tier probably for now, but I might move it a little bit lower. I don't think it goes into B tier though. I think it's meh. Combat Cube, to me, is Battle but worse. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's just because the roster of players is stronger, and thus I didn't have as great of a time in it. But I think I'm not sure if it's D tier. I think it was also a little complicated, at least for a first time play and maybe even a second time play, to understand how the keys and the locks and the whatever capture points worked. So I'll probably put it in top of D. I mean, as far as we're aware, it is a deleted game, so probably for the best, but yeah, interesting for sure. Next up is Meltdown, and this one is tricky. This is the only game on this tier list that I've actually never played before, but from watching it, it looks really cool and fun, and I'm gonna put it in S. But the only issue with Meltdown that I am very, very much aware of is that, like said, it is a Battle Royale game, and because of random spawning and just team balancing and RNG, really, there is a chance that a team could have an absolutely terrible time in Meltdown because they get eliminated and wiped immediately at the start of every single round, and that has happened a lot. Namely, I know that the Hermits have had some experience with that, so I understand it definitely has its flaws, but from my perspective, it looks really fun, and I'd love to play it. And yeah, that's why it goes in S tier, really. I just think it's good. It's definitely great. I mean, that's just my opinion on it. SG. I think SG, you could talk very deeply about SG if you really wanted to, but I think everyone already knows how SG works, and I think its flaws are very apparent. It is by far the most high risk, high reward game of all time, and that very much negatively affects the weaker teams pretty much on a consistent basis, because if you don't, if you go out immediately, you have to sit there for 10 minutes doing absolutely nothing, which sucks. That is not fun. So it definitely has to go in at least C tier. But I also think there's definitely good elements to SG, because you could argue the same for Meltdown, but obviously Meltdown has rounds. I think SG still has its charm, MCC SG that is, because I do think PB's SG is better in terms of, you know, giving the opportunity for people to come back, but I don't think it's much better. So yeah, I think SG is gonna have to, or MCC SG is gonna have to rank in C, and considering that, like, it's like you have to outweigh the positives and the negatives, and that is tricky. So I'm gonna have to just put it in C top for now. Probably. Do I think I'll just revisit this at the end. But yeah, SG from PB is slightly better. So it goes one space above, pretty much. That's my opinion. I think it's still, you know, very flawed because of how SG is made. It's just an RNG game with, well, not RNG. It has RNG loot tables, obviously. Not everyone's gonna get the same loot. It's not predetermined, so you can just get unlucky if you go in one direction. The loot might not be that great there. Who knows? And yeah, I think the gulag mechanic does make it a little bit better. Because it does, like I said, give people the opportunity to play again if they get eliminated, especially early on. That's very valuable. But later down the line, at the end of when the gulag is still open, it doesn't really seem to matter too much. I mean, I guess you can score some, like, you know, damage points maybe here and there, or maybe some, you know, maybe you can clean a kill, but winning the round is typically very unlikely. Unless you're me in that one round where I killed Kill Awesome. Then maybe it is very valuable. Anyways, and then finally is Temple Lockouts. Now, obviously, I haven't had the greatest experiences with Temple Lockouts, and I think I've said this in a previous video as well. I think when I did the ultimate, like, Minecraft event ranking on this channel. I'm gonna look past my experiences with Temple and acknowledge that it is very popular and a lot of people really, really like it, and it's just gonna have to go in S. It'll go in the bottom of S because of my experiences with it, but I think it is just a very good game in its core design, and that's about it, really. Like, I don't really have much else to say about it that other people haven't already said. I think Temple Lockout has a lot of potential. The only potential thing that I would change is the kit from the final round. I'm just not a fan of. I don't know how many people really enjoy the tridents and the axe. I think it's a little weird, but I think it's a very intense game, and I know viewers are very much engaged in it, and I think it, again, another high risk, high reward game, so very fun, but multiple rounds, so similar to Meltdown. It's not as bad as SG, and you can clearly tell in terms of difference between the tiers. That has a big impact. Anyways, this is my current ranking. I'm going to now think about this again and see if I want to adjust anything. It's a bit odd to have Battle Box in its own A tier. I don't think Battle Box is necessarily like that big of a gap below or above. Actually, maybe I do think that. Maybe I do think that Battle Box is like that much more solid, but it is also very map dependent. So I think maybe, I think Guardians of the Chamber has potential to be higher too. I think the only issue that they are dealing with, well, not the only issue, but their main thing that they can improve on here is their map design. I think the map, the most recent one that I played was just huge, like unnecessarily big. And I think that did impact how the game was played in a negative way. So yeah, I think Guardians of the Chamber, I think, does deserve a little bit of a bump in terms of how good I think the game is. And it is very funny to see that all the round robin games, you know, ended up in like the top half, essentially. At least on average, they're like A tier, so that's pretty good. That's a pretty good showing, isn't it? And then, I mean, you can, if you look at it further, you see that the Battle Royale games rank a little bit more like across the board. You have like one in S, you have two in S tier, you have the rest in C and D. Never mind, maybe it wasn't as good, but yeah, I think D tier I do just want to keep like this. I think C tier is mostly gonna be kept like this, it's debatable on whether the other Sky games are better or worse than SG, because I think SG has its value, but the big flaw of it does impact how good of a game it is. I think if magically, you know, the having to spectate for 10 minutes aspect of the game wasn't a thing, these games could both rank like high B or A tier. I think SG is a very cool game to watch, and I understand why people really like it in terms of the viewer experience, but as a player, it's definitely not great. So yeah, that's probably going to be my ranking for now. Let me know your thoughts on these, on this ranking of these games, and let me know if you heavily agree or disagree with any of my rankings. And yeah, if I missed anything, feel free to say that as well. Anyways, thank you all for watching. I will hopefully read the comments whenever I can, but good chance is that I won't be home. So, reminder again, this video was re-recorded. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.